This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Marcel Petitpas. There's certain people in business that you meet along the way, and they just become legends in your mind as you go, and Marcel is one of those people for me. Marcel, welcome to the show, buddy. Glad to have you.
Jay, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
You got it. He's the CEO and founder of Parakeeto. My friend Brandon, who's also on the podcast a while ago, recommended I check out some webinar you did a while back. It blew me away with some of the stuff you were talking about, and then just became a fan of yours from there. So I'm super psyched to have you on, and I feel very fortunate to do. But you're up in the Great North, right? You're in Canada?
I'm in Canada, yeah, all the way on the East Coast in a little place called Prince Edward Island.
Okay. Is that actually, and this is a stupid question, but is it an actual island?
It's an island, yeah.
Okay.
Off the coast of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick.
Is it cold there most of the time?
For about 10 months out of the year, it's what most people would consider cold, but right now it's beautiful. Right now we're 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny, so it's a good time to be here.
I do like that. All right, so tell me a little bit about growing up there in Canada. I'm curious if it's any different, if I hear any differences between this typical U.S. story, but where'd you grow up over there and how did that happen?
Yeah, it's a small place, especially where I'm from in Prince Edward Island, very much a small town vibe. We're in the biggest city in the province, and there's about 35,000 people that live in this city. But we get a lot of tourism in the summer. It was very much that kind of small town energy growing up. You know everybody knows you and your parents. You can't really get away with much if you're up to no good. And it was a good way to keep us accountable growing up. And then I think one of the things that I started to pay attention to and I guess reject a little bit was the small thinking that tends to happen when you're in a small place. A lot of people are thinking about their life on a scale of the town or the province, and they're not really thinking far beyond that. And I was one of those kids that growing up, the first thing I wanted to do was leave and go see what else was out there. And it wasn't until I did that I realized a lot of the things that I appreciated about being from a small place and enjoying some of those luxuries.
Wow. That's inspirational off the jump. Look at you. Big surprise. So you went to college there too, though, right? You went to Prince, all right, so again, you're on an island, and is there more than one college on the island?
In Canada, we have university and we have college. And college tends to be more about things that are practical, frankly. That's where you would go to learn a trade, plumbing, electrical, things that you can go out and do work right away in. And then university tends to be more about sciences, engineering, professional disciplines like legal and accounting and so on. So I spent a year at university. My original career path, I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And I ended up dropping out after my first year, and I never went back after that.
But did that interest in health, and that seemed to carry through a little bit, right? I saw you did a lot of health-related coaching and like CrossFit kind of stuff. Where'd you go after you dropped out of that, or you decided not to do that path in university?
Yeah, it's a good question. Health and fitness and sport especially has been a really big part of my life for my entire life. For as long as I can remember, that's all I really wanted to do was to be outside, playing sports, running around. And then as I developed through my teen years and faced some hardship in life, it was a coping mechanism that was really important for me to get through those difficult periods of time. And I was reflecting on this the other day. I don't think I've gone longer than a week without exercise in over a decade. Like since I was 14 years old, I've always been to the gym at least 4 or 5 times a week for that time period. It just has become such a critical part of my routine that not going to the gym feels, for a lot of people, not having a cup of coffee in the morning. And so I think it's one of those natural things when you're a kid, you're like, what am I really interested in? Sports and being around sports, and health was one of those things. It was something I had an aptitude for. And one of my first mentors was a prominent physiotherapist that owned several clinics and did all of the physio for the biggest hockey team where I was from and all the university athletes at the University of PEI. So he was like the man. And I had the privilege in high school of shadowing him as a cooperative student when I was in high school. And I think looking back, what I was really more interested in was being an entrepreneur, because that's really what he was, an entrepreneur. But the proxy for that was physiotherapy. And so I think that was the hook and the path that I started to pursue. But over time, I started to realize that what I was actually more interested in was the business behind this discipline of helping people.
And what was your sport growing up, or sports?
Man, I did everything. The primary ones were hockey, soccer, football, rugby, but I also played tennis. I played table tennis for a while. I was into lacrosse. Like anything that my parents would let me try, I would try. But the big ones, the big four were hockey, soccer, rugby, and football.
What do you do now? Anything still?
I still play pickup hockey every now and again. I cycle recreationally. And I did compete in Olympic weightlifting up until a little while ago. But I'm a retired CrossFitter now, is how I would refer to myself. I'm just trying to be the oldest guy getting off the toilet at the old folks' home. You
don't talk about it as much anymore if you're a retired CrossFit guy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the stigma that comes along with CrossFit. Yeah, if somebody, my kids play hockey, all of them play ice hockey, which, my goodness, what an expensive sport. But they conned me into, and I'd never skated. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Virginia, so like I never ice skated before, and so they basically conned me into learn to play hockey at 35 years old. So now I've been playing in a men's league for the last couple of years after picking that up. So I definitely appreciate hockey much more than I did growing up. It's a hell of a sport. It's very cool. So tell me about the transition. You started to get the bug, you got the itch, you started to realize, hey, maybe this business thing is for me more than just the being really fit. What was the transition like into the business world for you?
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. I got really lucky in that after I dropped out of my first year in university, and the reason, by the way, that I dropped out, I think this is an important note, is physiotherapy is probably one of the most competitive programs that you can get into. It's a master's program. So you got to do a 4-year bachelor's degree in some kind of science discipline. Most people will do kinesiology if that's the path that they're on. And then after those 4 years, you apply to get into physio school. And out of our province, there was only 2 slots available. So you might have had a class of 30 or 40 people applying, and they were only going to take 2. So you have to have a perfect GPA. That's like the table stakes. And then you have to have an endorsement letter from the Pope or something after that to get in. And a side note is my brother just got accepted to physiotherapy like a couple weeks ago. So really proud of him. But after 1 year of really trying very hard, my marks were not even close. Like my grades were not even close to good enough to even be competitive for the physio program. So I realized right then and there, okay, this is not really the thing for me. And I'd never been like an amazing student. I was always just an average student in the school environment. So I said, I'm going to take some time, work, save up some money, and kind of figure out what my next move is, because I don't think that this is a path that I'm going to be able to go down, because I gave it everything I had, and I'm just not even really close to being on the bubble for something like this. Mm-hmm. So I worked selling cell phones for a while at a Best Buy, and through that, I got headhunted to work for Apple, and really lucked out, and early in my 20s had a great job doing account management for Apple. And that brought me to Moncton, where I met Dan Martell, who became a really close mentor. And I just really got lucky and started meeting these entrepreneurs that wanted to spend time with me and mentor me and were open to inviting me to things. And that's when I started to get the bug. I started spending time around these people that were doing things that inspired me, and started seeing the opportunities and what it could be like to be an entrepreneur. Now, of course, at that time, the funny thing was I really wanted the outcome. I had a superiority complex that was combined with crippling insecurity. And so I would say that I got into entrepreneurship for all of the wrong reasons. I wanted to prove something and prove to people that I was better than them and all these other things. But looking back, I don't have any regrets. It was a very humbling experience. And now I think I'm in it for the right reasons. But that's really how that transition started, was moving to a new city, changing up my circle, and that circle just happening to be a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of inspired me to look into it.
Why do you think they saw something? What do you think they saw in you that they wanted to mentor? What was special about you, do you think, that they saw, or that you exuded? At least it had to be something.
I don't know that it really had as much to do with me as it. So it's interesting, because I've actually written a book about this that I've never published, but if anybody wants a copy of it, just email me and I'll send it to you. It's in my Google Drive. But I got really lucky with mentorship when I moved to Moncton, and it is just like this whole new world for me. And now that I'm later in my entrepreneurial career, I think I realize what I didn't realize then, which is at that time, I was asking that question for myself, like, why do these people want to spend time with me? Why would the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company want to open up time in their calendar to spend with me? I don't have anything to offer them. I haven't done anything. I have no reputation. Like, why would they do this? And what I'm realizing now is that they already achieved success, and now what they were looking for was meaning. And a really great way to find that sense of meaning was investing back in young people. And now I just can't say no. I canceled meetings and rescheduled podcast episodes so I could drive 3 hours to a high school in New Brunswick a couple weeks ago to spend 2 hours with a group of students because I got asked, hey, could you come and spend time with this entrepreneurship class? And I just can't say no to people at that age. So I get it now. I will go way out of my way to just do that because it feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so fulfillment, I think, is what they were getting from spending that time. And if there was anything that they saw in me that is rare, and I know this from experience, was I actually did things after the meeting and I would follow up with them and I would keep in touch and I would let them know how things were. I would let them know that something they shared with me had impacted me and that I had done something about it. And so it's very rewarding to spend time with somebody and to be able to coach them and answer their questions. But it's even more rewarding when you actually see it impact the way that they behave and the way that they execute. And maybe that was something that stood out, was there was a feedback loop there that was really positive for them, where we'd meet and then I would actually do something and come back to them and be like, hey, this is what I did. Thank you for inspiring me. And then they would be like, oh shit, that makes me want to keep giving you my time and attention. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, the whole like second mountain, I think, right? It's like the first mountain is you, and the second one is like that search for meaning and giving back and stuff. So that definitely rings true. You got a bunch of really good mentorship. You got a lot of really good luck along the way, which I don't care what anybody says. It's definitely involved in anybody who's been successful. There's some degree of luck involved in it. Where did you go from there?
I started, my first company was called Real Tours Media. And we were trying to, before you could do it with your iPhone, turn a house into a 3D model that you could look at with a VR headset or that you could do a virtual tour of on the internet. This was back in 2015, 2016, maybe was when we were doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was just, I had a friend that I'd met. He had a bunch of friends in real estate. And he said, hey, I think that like we could kill with this. I'll want this service. So that was the first business that I started, and it lasted about 6 months. And what I realized early on, which is now the core thesis behind Parakeeto, was that there wasn't enough margin in that service for me to build a business. It could only ever really be a job a shitty job that I didn't like doing, because houses at that time, it wasn't like it is today. In Moncton, New Brunswick, the average selling price of a house was like $150,000. It was very much a buyer's market. Houses were sitting for 18, 24, 36 months, and realtors just weren't willing to spend that much money on pictures and videos and creative services for their listings because it could be sitting there for 3 years. So they were willing to pay about $250 for a service that at the time took almost 30 hours to do. So clearly it was not a great deal and not something that I could hire other people to do for me. So I ended up walking away pretty early from that business. But that was my first kind of entry into trying to do something on my own. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that I did for years after that, but I'll pause there.
First of all, the name Real Tours Media is a pretty cool name. I do like the Real Tour. You guys are probably like, oh my God, this is probably the best name ever. It is a great name. It's a very solid name. I'm sad to see that maybe you're a little bit ahead of its time or in the wrong market, but very cool. Yeah, so let's keep going. Where did you that's a hard lesson to learn. We've all, I think, if you've done anything in business, failed. So what did you mention why it failed, but what did you take from that and where'd you go?
Yeah, there was 3 big lessons. The first one obviously was like the unit economics of the business and how important those are. And thankfully I figured that one out early. The other was a lesson about business partners and vetting the people that you get into business with and making sure that there's a good fit and values alignment. And then the third one was actually something that I should have learned from my business partner at the time. He was much more experienced than I was, but he was really pushing for simplicity. Like, when we go in to sell to a realtor, we can't have 100 options. We got to have 2 or 3 and keep it really simple. And at the time, it wasn't landing with me, and I kept making things more complicated. And it's that classic thing that now I see in other people, and I'm like, oh man, it's so frustrating that they don't understand this. But at the time, I was that guy who was so caught up in my own curiosity and creativity that I couldn't appreciate the value of keeping things really simple. So that was another mistake that we made, was there was a lot of complexity that was really unnecessary in the early days of the business and made a lot of things harder and slower than they needed to be.
Great lessons. Wow. Again, you're pulling great stuff out of each one of these experiences, which is not surprising with what you got going on now. So was that before Marcel, or you started to work with them, or was that after?
So this was before I started working with Dan. So actually, from there, I tried to start a bunch of other businesses, and I was going to startup weekends and going to all the founder meetups that were happening in the city. So I was really tapped into networking in the entrepreneurial scene. And I think that was an incredibly important reason that I built the network that I did in Moncton. I met some amazing people. A lot of opportunities were opened up to me. It's a big part of the reason that I think Dan started inviting me to things, and he was a really important mentor of mine. Another really important one was a guy by the name of Yves Doucette, who runs a company called Dovico in Moncton. He was really the first person. He introduced me to Dan. He was like the first real successful entrepreneur that spent a lot of time with me and I think saw something in me. But as I was going through that, trying different projects and starting different things, the real catalyst for me was I had quit my job at Apple because they had in their employment contract that you basically couldn't have a side hustle. They owned it. If you had any IP, they were going to own it. So it was very prohibitive. I would have kept working there if it hadn't have been such an aggressive employment contract, but it left me with no choice. So I said, I want to try to do something on my own. I'm going to quit. I'm going to work. I'm going to go back to selling cell phones part-time on evenings and weekends, and I'm going to side hustle and try to start businesses. So after doing that for a year and trying and failing at realtors and a couple other ideas, I came to this realization that I was spending a lot of my time trading it for money, but I wasn't really learning anything from selling cell phones. Like I had done that, been there, it was easy. And so I asked myself, what could I do so that this time was spent learning and getting paid? And so the first thing I did was I thought, who's in my Rolodex that I want to spend more time around, that I could learn from being around? And let's see if they're willing to pay me to do something, anything. So one of those people that was on my Rolodex was Dan, and I just called him and I basically said, I want to work for you. And he was like, what do you want to do? I said, anything. I'll clean your toilets. I'll follow you around and pick up trash. Be like, I don't care. Anything. I just want to be in proximity so I can learn by osmosis. And Dan, being the person that he is, he says, I don't work with people until I work with them. So let's do a test project. The test project is you need to organize a speaking event. I'll speak at it. I'll be your keynote speaker. You need to sell at least $1,000 worth of tickets. And you have 30 days. This is the date. This is the time I'll be there. You do everything else. Good luck. And that was basically it. He hung up the phone. And long story short, what that ballooned into was a speaking event where there was 6 speakers. I was one of them. I got Eve and a few other people from my network together. We sold almost $13,000 worth of tickets. Wow. Had a couple hundred people show up to an auditorium. And I didn't end up working with Dan at that point, but I think that really put me on his radar because it was this level of execution that is unusual, where I just said, okay, and I just figured it out. And I ended up actually becoming a professional keynote speaker from that day forward until we started Parakeeto, and paid my bills just doing speaking engagements and things like that for the better part of a year afterwards, completely unintentionally. It wasn't something that I really thought was going to happen. So that was my kind of turning point where I became an entrepreneur for real. I was like eating what I kill and fending for myself. And it was also, I think, a really important jumping off point because there was a period about a week after that project kicked off where I realized I can't keep selling phones and do this event. I just don't have the time to do both. So I'm going to have to quit my job and go all in on this project. And afterwards, I'll just figure out whatever it is that I have to figure out. And that was like a really important moment of no return for me that I think, looking back, was a catalyst for me to keep doing what I'm doing today.
Wow. And what were your speaking topics? How did you go from not being a speaker to being a public speaker?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I've always been a natural at public speaking. Like I was the kid that would MC the school Christmas concert growing up. Like Great. It was just something that I was naturally drawn to. So there was a base there, but my talk at the event was about planning the event and kind of the mindset shifts I had to go through to make this event happen. And there's a YouTube video of it. I could probably find it. And then from there, I developed a keynote that I gave in a lot of high schools where I talked about just the difficulty and angst of coming out of high school and kind of the paradox of choice of trying to figure out what you're going to do. And it was really a reflection on my experience coming out of high school where I felt like I could do anything. And because of that, I found it really hard to figure out what I wanted to do. And I floundered for a while and I carried a lot of anxiety and stress around it. And I also did some public speaking about my personal journey through my teen years where we had a lot of difficulty at home. And it was the question that the talk posed and the framework that I offered was, what's the difference between people who experience really difficult, sometimes traumatic things in life that end up thriving from it and get stronger, and the people that don't, that allow it to hold them back. And so those were the kinds of things that I did keynoting on for a while.
Wow. So my gut feeling that you're inspirational, just from my brief experience with you so far, seems to be tracking. Let's fast forward a little bit to Parakeeto. Where did that come from? We'll get to the name at some point because I am curious, and I don't think I've ever asked you what that was. But where did that grow out of? You were bouncing around doing public speaking. You're being inspirational. It's probably an adrenaline-based thing for you, I would assume, where you get that rush of being up in front of a bunch of people and you're talking and you're doing your thing and everybody's asking questions, and then you switch gears to being a full-fledged entrepreneur, business owner. What was that transition like?
Yeah, while I was keynoting, that was never really the thing that I wanted to do long term. I enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. But underneath that, I was like, I want to start a company and like have a product and something that's like a lot more tangible and clear than being a keynote speaker or author and doing that treadmill for a long time. And Dan knew this about me. And so I got a call from him one day, and I was trying a whole bunch of other stuff. I had ideas, I was testing them and validating them and doing that process. But he called me one day and said, I got a friend. His name is Jared. He has an idea that every agency owner I've ever talked to needs. And so can I connect you? He needs a CEO to come in. He's the technical person. He's got the idea, but he's running a successful agency right now. And I think he needs a jockey for this horse, essentially. So I said, yeah, I'm open. We'll do the connection. So I get on the phone with Jared, and he goes on to explain the problem that we still solve today at Parakeeto, which is my team spends like a day a week building spreadsheets to answer all these questions that we need answers to in order to run our business. Are we making money on clients and projects? Which ones aren't going well? What's our utilization look like? Can we take on more work? Should we hire somebody? Should we fire somebody? Like all of these questions that have to do with time, capacity, projects. Like it's simple, but it's not easy, and there has to be a better way to do this. And I was like, I totally understand, because in those 6 months that I ran Real Tours Media, I was trying to figure that stuff out, and it was like really impossible. There's no good information on the internet about it. It's not even really clear how you're supposed to do this stuff, never mind like putting together the numbers to do it. And so I was like, yeah, I get this problem. Let's explore this. And we did a lot of stuff from that point forward, but that was really the jumping off point, and we just haven't looked back since on that problem. We knew the problem was real, and then it was just a question of what's it going to take to build the best solution in the world for it.
So where did the name come from? I have to just jump right to it.
Yeah, good question. So Jared runs an agency called Royal J out of Boise, Idaho. And so Royal J, of course, has a blue jay as the logo. And so any internal project that would get started at Royal J, they would just give it a bird-themed name. And this one just happened to be called Parakeeto, because his team, like, this was really an idea that they had been thinking about and working on before I arrived. There was software built, there was a brand built when I showed up. So we just never changed it. It just grew on us, and we just rolled with it, and we haven't changed it. And that's really where it came from. So it's a person who's really passionate about brand stories and brand development would probably gawk at this because it's total happenstance, but that's the truth of it.
You touched on it a little bit. Are agencies in general, would you consider that, I'm niched out with the word niche, but is that what you guys target, is just agencies in general? Like where do you guys go after when you're looking for clients?
Yeah, it's interesting because the philosophy, the methodology, the framework, and the product works for anyone that sells time. Like we could go into a legal firm, an accounting firm, a person that does gutter cleaning, and apply all these same principles. And we also could apply it to manufacturing as well. It's all the same core principles, all the same core frameworks and economic models. But the marketer in me knows that would be a mistake. What we need to do is be really specific. And so we just took Jared and said, okay, let's go sell this to other people that look like you, and let's make sure that we keep things narrowly focused. And it's a good thing that we did, because there are a lot of nuances. Like the language that you use to describe certain things is different in these different industries, and those nuances add up to marketing actually working and feeling compelling and potent and not. So our perfect customer today is a firm that sells creative or digital services. So they build websites, they do marketing, they do SEO, they do brands. And the common thread is that almost all of them do some kind of website design and development. And then the adjacent stuff is sometimes more technical, sometimes more marketing focused, and sometimes more brand focused. But that's really our perfect customer. And they're generally at between 10 and 100 employees. So they're big enough that they can't get away with not solving this problem anymore. Like the founder can't just solve problems with their evenings and weekends, but they're not so big that they've got the resources to build a full data operations team internally and just
Right.
hire expensive people to solve these problems.
Got it. So who was your first customer?
Who was our first customer? Man, that is a good question. I have to go back and look at who our first customer was. I don't know their name exactly, but I could tell you about
It
the
doesn't
process.
have to be their name.
get
But,
'em.
yeah, how'd you get them?
We really believed heavily in pre-selling before we built our product. And it still didn't de-risk things enough, obviously, because we had to throw out 2 products and start over a whole bunch of times and basically spent 3 years like just trying to figure out what the heck our product was. But we still applied, I think, good principles to validation. And so we said, we're going to get some screenshots and some mock-ups, and we're going to go and sell 10 licenses to this software before we start building it. And so the way that I sourced those people was I first thought, okay, how do I find agencies on the internet? And LinkedIn and Clutch, which is like a database for agencies, were 2 places where I could basically just build a huge list. I built a scraping bot using something called ParseHub, and then I would go and use like hunter.io or something like that to find the email addresses of these people. And then I just started writing cold emails. I spent an entire summer. I'd write a couple hundred emails a day. And what I figured out was the formula was asking for advice instead of asking for the sale. So the email basically read something like, hey, Jay, I noticed you're running a successful agency. I'd really love your advice given your experience in the industry. I'm working on an idea. This is the kind of stuff that we're trying to solve for. I'd love to get your feedback on what we're doing and learn from your experience. That was a really effective tactic because it played into the same thing that worked for getting mentorship, which was I was asking them for their advice and stroking their ego a little bit, and they were like, oh yeah, this feels good. This feels fulfilling to help this young person out. So I got a bunch of people on a call. I would get their feedback, and then if they seemed really interested, I would be like, hey, look, I'm putting together this kind of early adopters, founder circle, heavily discounting access to the product and really creating a feedback loop so you can influence the product roadmap and how it works and all that stuff. It's $1,000. You get access for a year. You get a lifetime discount. What do you think? And we eventually got 10 people to pay us for what were essentially images in a Google slide deck of what a product might look like someday as a way to really validate, are people serious about solving this problem? So that was how we got our first 10 customers.
Wow. That seems like such a repeatable process, like from somebody who clearly has lived through different iterations of what worked and what hasn't worked. So that's a great, I've heard similar, that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, right? If you're going to start a new product and you don't have $1 billion to go off and just build whatever you want and fail a million times by hiring new dev teams, that's a great way to do it. I love that story. If you had to start Parakeeto over again tomorrow with all your lessons learned, what would be step 1?
So I have a philosophy on this now that I'm looking back. Like if I was to start over again, I think the first thing that I would do is try to avoid a startup that is as blue ocean as Parakeeto is. I think after Parakeeto, if I get involved in another business, I'll be buying it as opposed to trying to start from scratch. And the reason for that, or I'll be starting a business in a very competitive market that already has a lot of other competitors in it, which is something that I was really afraid of when I was younger. And now it seems like a really exciting opportunity because what I figured out is now that I know I'm a competent operator, I know that I can out-operate almost anybody in any industry. I don't say this to be condescending, but what I've figured out is that entrepreneurs are human beings and most of them don't really know what the fuck they're doing. None of us know what the fuck we're doing, if we're honest. And a lot of them are not really that competent. And in certain industries, it's worse than others. Like if you've ever tried to get somebody over to fix your toilet, all you've got to do to absolutely destroy your competition in most markets is answer the phone, be nice, show up when you said you were going to show up, do the job that you said you were going to do, send an invoice. If you do those things, it is like way higher than what I expect. Like I am bracing myself for that phone call. And so that's something that I would first of all do is just probably not start a brand new product in a blue ocean market, because the risk is around finding product market fit. It doesn't matter how competent you are. It doesn't matter how perfectly you execute some lean startup process. You don't know how many experiments it takes to get the end result.
Yep.
But if I was going to do that, if I believe strongly enough in a thesis to pursue that, I would look at it in a very different way. And I believe that the formula for finding product market fit comes down to the velocity at which you can experiment. If we think about it like a brute force engineering problem, right? It's a question of we don't know how many experiments it will take, but we can increase our likelihood of winning by increasing the velocity at which we can run experiments. So if I can do one experiment a week, I can do 52 in a year. If I can do one experiment a day, I can do 300 experiments in a year. Who has a better chance at finding product market fit? Obviously, the person with 300 experiments. So the formula for this is customer interaction multiplied by iteration rate. So if I am not able to get in front of customers very quickly, then I don't have any feedback. The thing I'm going to build is inherently speculative. So the first problem to solve is, can we get surface area with the market? And that has to do with, can I go into a forum or a user group or go to a meetup and talk about the problem, talk about my thesis, and it's interesting enough that people want to talk to me about it. If that's not true, then there's probably nothing there. There's no problem, and it's not worth really pursuing anymore. So you have to build your funnel first. And the best way to build that funnel is to just start talking about these problems and seeing if anybody resonates enough to start talking back to you and wanting to engage with you and wanting to converse with you. So now you have the fuel for this system. And then the next thing is, and this is the thing that I screwed up constantly, was speed of iteration, right? Over-engineering the thing too early. Parakeeto became a service 3 years after we started because we tried to make it a software for 3 years. And we realized that the problem with software is it's scalable, but if you're not doing the right process, it doesn't matter how scalable the process is. So all we were doing was slowing ourselves down from actually closing in on what the right process was. So services are a really malleable product because you can just show up to the next call and do it differently. You can change the script, the process on a piece of paper instead of having to go and write code. So if I could go back and start over again, I would still do what I did, which is I started marketing and figuring out how to get contact with customers fast and early. That was the right choice. But I would approach product very differently, and I would almost certainly have sold a service as opposed to selling a product initially, and then thought about product as a way to automate, scale, and leverage that process. Right. Because people talk about MVP as minimum viable product, and I really believe you've got to zoom out and start with minimum viable problem. That's the first MVP. When you talk about this problem, does anybody care? Then the second P is minimum viable point of view. And the point of view is, here's my point of view on how to solve this problem differently. And do people resonate with that? Yep. Then the next thing is minimum viable process. I'm going to do this process, and does it create the result in a consistent way? Until you figure that out, what's the point in building software? All software does is automate and scale a process. Yep. If the underlying process doesn't work, the product doesn't work. And so only once you've validated the problem, the point of view, and the process, do you then start thinking about product. And that was the thing that I kept skipping over, were those kind of first three things. I knew there was a problem, so that's good. That's why we're still alive. But the point of view and the process, I was overlooking. And I should have spent more time. That's what I would have done differently, is gone back and really been maniacal about those things and shifted my mindset away from what I was trying to do then was prove myself right. I would have been more maniacal about trying to prove myself wrong instead, because there's inherent bias in trying to prove yourself right.
Wow. I'm glad I have this recorded so I can go back and look at it later. I want to spin up my next project. Those are all, yeah. I've read somewhere recently that was, you can only prove something doesn't work pre-production. Like you don't know something's going to actually work until somebody hands you dollars and says, "I'll pay you for this thing," right? And everything else is speculative. So that's all those points are awesome. So let's switch gears just a little bit. You are obviously a health-focused guy, so I'm curious what points 2 and 3 will be. But you've already mentioned one of them. What are 3 kind of healthy things you're working on for your longevity, right? You're still a younger guy. You're obviously in shape. You do the gym. But what are some other things you focus on health-wise to keep yourself tuned up?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's so interesting because when I look around at the way most people operate, the first step is stop actively killing yourself, right? And you think about that, it's like we're eating junk food, we're drinking, we're smoking, like we're doing things that we know are actively shaving years off our life. So that's the first thing, is I just try to not actively do things that are like clearly detrimental to my health within reason. Right. And a lot of that is diet related. And I just stopped drinking, not because I don't drink. Like, it's not a hard line in the sand, but it just never makes me feel good. It never feels like a good time. I never feel like I can afford to be hungover. Like, my schedule, it just is not conducive to not being productive. And in some ways, I've created that circumstance for myself. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sleep. I'm really dialed about sleep, and nothing has improved my quality of life more than really getting good sleep quality and monitoring it. So I wear a Whoop strap. Before that, I wore a Fitbit. Before that, I had an Oura Ring. There's lots of different ways to track this stuff. But the key for me has been temperature. Of all the things that has improved my sleep, consistency and temperature are the two big ones. So getting to sleep at a similar time every night is a big one. And making sure that the room temperature is low enough that my skin temperature, my surface skin temperature can drop by 2 degrees throughout the night. If it's not cold, my sleep quality is just like noticeably worse. So sleep is like a really big one. And then supplementation. I get regular blood work done with my naturopath, and we talk about what vitamins I should or shouldn't be taking, and we're regularly updating that to make sure that all the bases are covered. That's really getting into optimization. But what I find interesting is I talk to a lot of people, and they're asking questions about supplements and what do you take and what kind of protein are you on and what kind of vitamins do you take. And I'm like, dude, you sleep like 4 hours a night. You eat like shit. You don't exercise. Start there.
Right.
There's no point. There's no vitamin that's going to fix that stuff.
Right.
That is by far the most important thing is exercise, diet, and sleep. Those will get you 90% of the results. Everything else after that is gravy.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. And I have 5 kids. Drinking after a certain point, like you said, the hangover just does not work with normal life. So a couple of years ago, again, no hard line in the sand. It's just, I like it. Not actively killing yourself is a great way to put a lot of the shitty habits that we as humans like to bestow upon ourselves. So that's a great way to put it. All right. The one last question, mystery question that I always ask. So if people always tell me I say the same thing, but if there was something you could do, anything on earth, and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think I would start some kind of investment firm. I don't know that it would be venture capital. I don't know that it would be private equity, but it'd be somewhere in between, some intersection of finance and entrepreneurship, because there's just nothing that I love more than helping other entrepreneurs be successful. Like, I love building a company, and I'm going to see this through, and it's been a really valuable experience, but I found that I'm much more fulfilled as like a coach and a supporter and somebody that can come in, and I can add a lot more value in that way as well as an outside perspective with a little limited scope. And so that's, I think, the next level for me. It's where I want to go in my trajectory as an entrepreneur, is to go up to that next level of resource allocation and capital allocation. That's what I think I would do. And I would just back incredible founders and try to support them and help use my abilities and my resources to help a lot of other people make an impact and kind of build their dream life.
I think you're already on the path to that. So that's not even that doesn't seem like that far off. So you're a hell of a guy, man. I want to hear send me your book. I would love to read it. Even though it's not published, I would love to read your life story. Where can they find Marcel? Where can they find Parakeeto if people are trying to reach you?
Yeah, you can head to marcelpetitpas.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect with me. And Parakeeto is at parakeeto.com. And we've got a podcast and lots of great resources. So if you run a services business, you run an agency, anyone that sells services, then our content will probably be really valuable for you. So make sure you check that out.
I can personally attest that it is valuable, and so is listening to you talk. So thank you for being on today. You're fantastic. You're an inspiration. And I hope people check you out, man. Best of luck to you, and I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Marcel. See you, man.